8. Good morning and welcome to today's episode of Nadya's Identity Files. Do you ever have days where you feel like completely brain dead? Because honestly, that is so me today, 150%. And honestly, that's been me for the past few days. I'm going to blame the rain. It's another rainy day here in Los Angeles, and along with the depletion of their vitamin D stores, I think Los Angelinos are melting. And what's a Los Angelino to do without the balmy SoCal identity that they're so accustomed to, right? I think I have an idea of how they cope. Typically by either driving like a snail or like a psychotic NASCAR race car driver. In any event, I'm kind of drained from the rain today, but it's all good. I personally enjoy this weather, even though it makes me a little on the sleepy side. Anywho, it's common to have a bit of rain in February in Los Angeles. In February. And I can't believe it is February already. I mean, honestly, like January, it sped by. I think I maybe had one day off. I don't know about you. You probably had like 500 days off, even though it's 31 days in the month. But before we know it, we're going to be in June, and then we're going to be in 2018. I'm hoping maybe we can just speed up to 2020. That would be great. But I don't see that happening. And you know, obviously most people, when they think about the month of February, they automatically go to Valentine's Day cards, and all the hoopla that is brought up in the realm of love and dating and so on and so forth. But more importantly than Valentine's Day and thinking about the commercial holiday of Valentine's Day, February is Black History Month. And Black History Month, which was established in the U.S. in 1976, 50 years prior in 1926, was actually only recognized as Black History Week. In America and throughout the world, Black History Month is a remembrance of important people and events in the history of the African diaspora. And although the achievements of African Americans must be recognized every month of the year, an unfortunate reality is that for many people, particularly children in today's public education system, Black history has become something of an afterthought, which is incredibly problematic. So in this context, Black History Month is, it's obviously much more than a token commemorative label. For some students, it may be one of the only times they spend significant time in class learning about African American contributions to society. And, obviously the American curriculum needs a major overhaul, not with, in that respect and many other respects. I'm not going to go into that too much today. And obviously for Donald Trump, Black History Month was a time to show his complete cluelessness of Black historical figures, namely Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was a former slave and narrative storyteller whose advocacy work was, in many ways, the catalyst for the abolitionist movement. Last time I checked, he died over 122 years ago. But apparently our friend Donald Trump thinks that he's still alive and well. And while I wish Frederick Douglass was alive and well, I'm sorry, Donald, just not the case. Sad, but kind of funny. And if there's one thing that we can take away from that, there's comedy even in tragedy. We can certainly learn that from comedians. And stand-up comedy is a powerful form of autobiographical performance, unique in its simultaneous construction of personal identity and cultural critique. Today's guest is a stand-up comedian who's both skilled at exploring the absurdities of society in his work and also obviously making people laugh. Julian Michael is a national touring stand-up comedian and winner of the World Series of Comedy. He's also a screenwriter, radio host, and speaker who, like me, cannot stand to be put in a box. So I'm very excited to be speaking with him today. It's going to be a wonderful conversation about identity and comedy and a whole bunch of other things that I'm not going to expose yet because I want you to keep watching. But first, we have to do at least a brief identity news synopsis. And I would like to go back to, as much as it pains me, I do want to go back to Donald Trump's Frederick Douglass blunder. For a guy who gave a perfunctory nod to the National Museum of African American History and Culture, Trump and others like him obviously is in desperate need of a guided tour in African American history and just basic logic, period. Some say the critique of Donald Trump and his blunder is too much. They say he just had a slip of words, yada, 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 etc., and so on. But Trump, he's an older, cisgender, heterosexual, and wealthy man. He has access to abundant historical resources, from books to newspaper articles to films, museums, Twitter. He can go through Twitter. He can do some growth hacking on Twitter. He can do some mind growth hacking on Twitter, to educate himself a little bit. But he prefers to make the choice to avoid exerting any energy whatsoever to learn about the lives and histories of African American people in the United States. I can only imagine what he's going to say next month for Women's History Month. Honestly, I have no idea. It's going to be interesting. Oi to the vey. On a completely different note, but still in the realm of identity, but a completely different avenue of identity, apparently identity theft might be on the rise again. In a recent CBS News report, the rise of chip-based credit cards in the United States has forced con artists to change their tactics. I always thought those chip cards were just like an entire joke. I mean, all it does is waste time. I was just across the street trying to get some water. And do you know how many times I had to stick that thing in the little slot? I'm like, can't I just swipe this? Can you just take one of those pieces of paper and, read my card number? Because this is taking way too much time. So apparently the study that was covered in the CBS News report says that about 15 million Americans had personal and financial information stolen last year, and mostly as a result from this chip situation. So, watch your backs with your chip card. I don't know. Start carrying a wad of cash around. Maybe that's a safer way to go. I don't know. That's today's identity news. We're not going to go any further than that because it's time to perk things up a little bit and talk comedy and identity. And we'll be right back with Julian to do that. Stay tuned.